waiting, baby.
Oh, I feel like preaching in this place. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. God, that's what I'm talking about.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on, everybody? This is Clarence Jr. And we are going to have a very interesting conversation tonight, in my personal opinion. We're going to talk about, this is basically going to be a review or a reaction to a conversation about a conversation. So let's start there. The initial conversation was a debate between Andrew Wilson and Coach Greg Adams, and it was about marriage. And then you have Trader NBD and SKC, two, I guess, for lack of a better terms, Red Pill adjacent content creators who had a conversation about that conversation, right? I'm going to have a conversation about their conversation about that conversation, right? But before I do, there's a couple of things that I need to establish, right? So, first of all, me personally, I'm going to be getting married in a few months here, right? In March. We're in December, so in a few short months, I'll be getting married. Now, personally, I would have done it like 4 or 5 months ago. I just would have went down to the courthouse. But, you know, we're having the ceremony. So there we go. Now, let's talk about, because we got to establish a few things. So before we get into it, I'm just going to make clear to you guys my stance on marriage. So, and that's why the video was titled what it's titled. Secular marriage is off brand, right? What do I mean by, first of all, what do I mean by secular marriage? When I say secular marriage, what I mean is marriages that are not based upon a religious faith, right? So you got a non-religious person marrying a non-religious person because they're in love and they want to start a family. That's a secular marriage, right? And what I'm saying is, in my personal opinion, secular marriage is off-brand. Now, what do I mean by off-brand? Let me go ahead and bring back up the thumbnail here. All right, so off-brand. We have not Cinnamon Toast Crunch, we have Cinnamon Crunch Squares. Not Dr. Pepper, we have Dr. Shasta. Not, the University of Maryland or Bowie State University or Howard University. We have ICDC College. And the couple in the middle you might not be able to recognize because they're small and maybe you didn't used to watch reality television. But that couple in the middle is Yandy and Mendices, some love and hip hop folk, right? And so why are those things on the thumbnail? Because those are examples of off-brand things, right? So an off-brand thing is a knockoff of the original. And sometimes you can skate by with the knockoff. Sometimes you can get by with the knockoff. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the knockoff and the original, right? Like if you take the first sip of Dr. Pepper and the first sip of Dr. Shasta, you may not be able to tell the difference. However, you will be able to tell the difference between Dr. Pepper and Dr. Shasta in about 3 minutes. Because in about 3 minutes, that Dr. Shasta is going to be flat. Whereas the Dr. Pepper is still going to be fizzy. That first bite of Cinnamon Toast Crunch may not taste all that different from the first bite of Cinnamon Toast Squares. However, I appreciate that. Definitely going to do some content around that when the time comes. We'll see. But that first bite of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and that first bite of Cinnamon Toast Squares, it just might taste the same on that first bite. The difference is, give it about 30 seconds. The Cinnamon Toast Squares is going to get soggier way before the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And it's going to taste chalkier as well. And that's, in my opinion, what secular marriage is. It's off-brand. It's a knockoff of the original. It's not the same. Now, people have successful secular marriages. I'm not saying secular marriage never works, because some people do have successful secular marriages that go to distance. They do. Just like there's some people who they buy Cinnamon Toast Squares and they never buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And hey, their cereal eating experience is all good for them, right? There's some people, they buy Shasta. They don't pay for Pepsi or Coca-Cola because it's cheaper, right? So it is what it is. But it's not the same. And so let me get that out the way. So I just defined secular marriage, right? Secular marriage is when two non-religious people decide they want to get married, right? Now, what is non-secular or traditional or religious-based marriage? Well, those types of marriages are marriages in which the two people who come together believe in a higher power and they're buying into what that higher power teaches about what marriage is, right? And 10 times out of 10, in those types of marriages, whatever their religious belief or practice is, there's very detailed descriptions of what marriage is, what it means, how you're supposed to carry yourself in it, if and when you can leave it, who you should marry, there's a whole lot of rules and parameters and guidelines and an understanding of what it is. There's also an understanding between the two people that the reason we are getting into this situation is because we both believe in this higher power and we both are voluntarily buying into what this higher power says about what marriage is. We both agree to the rules and parameters and understandings of what this is based upon our shared belief, right? Whereas, once again, if you take a secular marriage, that's not there. So then what are you getting married for? Most of the time, you're getting married because you feel a certain way about the person that you are marrying. And that's why it's always interesting when guys say women can just wake up one day and blow up the marriage because she don't feel happy. She's just going to leave because of how she feels one day. When the truth of the matter is, that's the exact same way she got into the marriage with you. And it's the exact same reason you got into the marriage with her. Right? If it's a secular marriage, meaning there's no higher power involved in that, that means that the two of you got together because of how you felt. And so it shouldn't surprise you that maybe one day she leaves because of how she felt. Because the whole entire thing was only feelings based from the beginning. But that's, I don't want to burst your bubble, all right? So there's that. So I've defined secular marriage, and I've also defined non-secular marriage. Now, this is just me and my personal opinion, right? I've already conceded that there are secular marriages that do work, that do last, that do go the distance, right? But I'm also going to give you this opinion. In my personal opinion, secular marriage was not designed to work. It's not designed to work. So you shouldn't be surprised when a secular marriage fails because it's not designed to work in the first place. Let me explain to you why. Once again, when your marriage is based upon a shared belief in a higher power, you're not just getting with this person because you like them or you love them in the moment. You're getting with this person, yes, because of how you feel, but also because, how do I put this? It's kind of, I'm trying to explain it in a way that makes sense to most people, right? So it's not just based upon how you feel, it's also based upon the structure of your belief system and how you are designed to do life romantically and build families and so forth and so on. Also, and this is a huge part of it, because you both share this common belief, in theory, you take getting into a marriage more seriously because the common belief that you share has very laid out parameters for when you should get with somebody, who you should get with, how, and then how the situation should go and how long it should last. And so if you are real, if the two of you are really into that belief system, you don't just get into a situation because of how you feel, because your belief system instills in you that this is a much bigger situation and commitment than just how you feel. And so you make a very serious decision about moving forward with this. In addition to just I'm happy right now. And that's the difference. That's why one is designed to work, in my opinion, the other is not designed to work. Because with one, it is a very serious, detailed commitment that's out there in front that all parties involved know what it is. That's number one. Number two. Matter of fact, some of this stuff we'll get to. Let's see. Yeah, the rest of the stuff we'll get into in the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this video up and we're gonna go through this together. All right. Once again, this is a conversation about a conversation, right? We're going to pick this up at around the 16-minute mark. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm going to play about 10, 15 minutes here. Then we're going to skip ahead and play another 10, 15, and then boom. All right. So let me go ahead and play this.
Having hope in yesteryear. And I'm not even going to go back to 1950, at least back to 1993, when I became an adult. Andrew Wilson's philosophies lean more towards that era, pre-social media era. And, CGA is a Gen Xer, same age as me. His marriage took place before social media. So CGA's, villain arc and his prescriptions and solutions are based on, how to now basically move properly in this new era in which we're living in.
I mean, people could say that, but I mean, I have a different opinion of that entire situation. When you state, marriage is a part of the, what did you say? Like a religious aspect. That's where Andrew is coming from, right?
Yes.
Okay. So isn't that how it started?
And see, this is where we're getting into the initial comments and points that I made, that marriage is originally a religious institution. And when you try to take the institution out of the setting that it was originally in so that you can participate it and have your own version of it, then you shouldn't be surprised when it doesn't work.
What started, marriage or the debate?
Yeah.
Well, marriage, depending on the culture. And
Okay. What culture was it not a religious situation?
We look at pagan cultures. We'll look at,
Even in those pagan cultures, were they not praying to their gods or
okay, so
having religious rights
okay,
pressed
gotcha.
upon the matter?
Okay, so let's define this. I'm referring to Western religions.
Yeah, I'm saying all.
Okay, gotcha. I'm with you. Okay, so if we refer to a higher power, like let's just, for me, myself, I don't do the religion thing. I believe in God, a higher power. So I look at it as, okay, marriages were the joining of two people coming together based on the energy they under God's umbrella. God, man, woman, child.
And that's fine. And we can
through all the religious stuff.
And that's fine, and we can get there. But just to start from the
also, and I'm gonna get back to this, but another point just came to my head just now. The main reason why secular marriage doesn't work, right? The main reason why a lot of times it doesn't work is because when two non-religious people decide that they want to get married, what marriage is, how serious the commitment is, how long it's supposed to last, how you're supposed to operate within that commitment, and if and when it's okay for you to exit that commitment, really just is based upon how the individual feels and what they think about it at that particular time. And so it's very likely that you find yourself making a commitment to someone, and you and that person have a different understanding of what the commitment is, how serious it is, how long it lasts, and what it entails. Right? Because there is no framework that you both are basing it off of and saying, this is what we're doing. So oftentimes when it comes to a secular marriage, the two of you have two different ideas, versions, and understandings of what it is you two are agreeing to do. Especially in this era where, well, not even in this era, but just in modern times where most people write their own vows. And when most people write their own vows, it's about, oh, I remember when we first met and I felt the butterflies. And they tell a cute little nice story about the moment they knew and how they're so happy, and people start crying. Right? That's what happens nowadays when most people write their vows. They tell a nice, beautiful, flowery story. And if you really pay attention, there aren't really any real concrete commitments that are made in vows these days when you write your own. It's like a story that you're telling to pull at the heartstrings of the people in the audience. So just think about this. And this is once again, this is why a lot of times the secular marriage doesn't work. Because there is no overarching framework that you both are adhering to that tells you what this is that you both are doing. And y'all are both on the same page about what you're doing. Not only is that not there, but then on top of that, when it comes time for you to make vows to this person, you're not really vowing anything to them. You're really just telling a beautiful story for the audience. So you don't even have the to have and to hold, for rich or poor, sickness and health, better or worse, until death. Nobody's saying that anymore. Just think about that. Nobody is saying to have and to hold, love, honor, cherish, and obey, sickness and health, rich or poor, until death. Nobody's actually saying I'm committing to this to you. Nobody's actually saying that anymore. And then you're wondering why people wake up one day. Why wouldn't they? They never made any type of vow to you that they was gonna. Oh, but let's continue.
Beginning, when has it not been a religious institution?
Well, I mean, I can only go back as far as the oldest people I know and what they've spoken on. And if we're
Right.
looking
So
just at Western culture, it was a religious institution. As Andrew stated, the religious constraint, it was not just religious constraints, it was societal constraints that were placed upon men and women to keep the marriage aspect in line. Now,
right,
however, those
right,
constraints are still on men. They're not on
right.
women anymore.
And that's fine, but I just want to get a baseline understanding. So we are agreeing that that marriage began from a religious institution, wherever it was and whatever culture. You could be in the middle of the jungle with the pagans and so forth. They were still going ooga booga, go to the sky god, such and such, and blah blah blah, and this marriage and blah blah blah. Right?
Sure, I'll go with that.
Okay, so then later on in today's society, you had individuals that have less of a religious or a non-religious idea on life in general, and yet they want to engage in a practice that was religious from its very beginnings. Perhaps it's just that they're just ill-suited for it because they're trying to take an institution that was based upon a religious concept and be involved in it.
Boom, boom, boom. It's really that simple. It really is. And the reason why it's that simple is because the moment you put a belief system at the heart of something, when you take that belief system out of that thing, you change what the thing is. Right? I'm gonna say that again. The moment you have something that is rooted in a belief system, once you take the belief system out of that and then try to operate that thing outside of that, you have essentially created something new and different. And a lot of people are not realizing that.
Well, the problem we're facing is that, and this is one of the issues of debate between CGA and Andrew Wilson. CGA is speaking in the reality of where religion is today in regards to marriage. Marriage is completely secular today, which you just stated.
Which shows you why it would fail then, right?
Exactly. Then that would tell you why it's not working.
Because it's trying to separate itself from its very foundation.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's the thing. Andrew and CGA are both right in that argument. If you apply Andrew's solutions work for religious marriage. Frisier solutions work for secular marriage. They are not interchangeable.
Right, and that's the whole point of you had a person who wanted to be involved in a institution that was based upon religion, but they did not want to show any of the attributes of that of religion at all. And then they wonder why it failed.
I mean, I don't know how much plainer it can be. Like, it makes perfect sense to me.
And who might that be?
Because
CGA?
Well, I mean, the individuals that's talking about the whole idea of secular marriage. All of this to a much larger degree hints back to the aspect of the idea of objective reality versus subjective reality. So, if you want to go with the whole thing of everything is subjective and you can do what you want and she can do what she wants and you two can come together and you can have it just as well as the people who operate in tradition. then that's a line you're going to fail every time.
Exactly. And see, and this is one of the bigger problems of society today. Because when you really think about it, society and how they go about relationships, it does not make logical sense. And what I mean by that is this. In modern society, the idea is I'm going to go out here while I'm young and do whatever I want to do with whoever I want to do it with. And then when the day comes that I'm ready to settle down, I'm going to be able to readily find somebody who is also ready to settle down. And guess what? The two of us are not going to come in with a whole bunch of baggage. We're not going to come up with a whole bunch of kids. We're not going to be jaded. We're not going to have all this pain and trauma. We're not going to have trust issues. We're going to be able to transition from being sexually free and promiscuous to sexually chaste and exclusive just at the snap of a finger. And that doesn't make logical sense. I'm going to say that again because a lot of people, I want you to really think about this. The way we do dating and mating does not make logical sense. Because the way most of us do modern dating and mating is this. From the time we hit 13 to the time we get to around 28, 29, 30, 35 in some cases, we are going to be out here living our best life, having as much fun as we can have, getting with whoever we can get with, not a whole lot of sexual discipline. And then when we finally get tired of that or meet somebody that makes us want to transition out of that, we think that we're going to be able to flip the switch and all of a sudden become sexually disciplined. And we're going to come through all those years of just doing whatever we wanted to do, and we're not going to have any trauma. We're not going to have any kids, any diseases, any trust issues, any vices. We're just going to transition as a whole, healthy, readily available person with no baggage, and we're going to find somebody out there who's also whole, healthy, readily available with no baggage, and we're both going to just flip the switch and automatically become sexually disciplined, loyal people. That does not make any sense. When you really think about it, that makes no sense. And that's why there's so many relationship and all this drama going on now and the gender war and all of that, because people are going about relationships in a way that does not make logical sense. I understand that for some people it works out. Yeah. For some people, they're young and they have their fun and then they get ready to settle down and then they meet somebody and they go off into the sunset. Yeah, it works for some people. But it's going to be a whole lot of people that it is not going to work out for. And when you really think about it, it should not be surprising. Because that is not a logical way to go about things. The most logical way to go about reaching a traditional conclusion is living a traditional lifestyle. Let me say that again. The most likely way to reach a traditional conclusion where you have a happy, healthy marriage and a family is to live a traditional lifestyle. Traditional lifestyles more than likely lead to traditional outcomes. Free, laissez-faire, do whatever I want lifestyles do not lead to traditional outcomes. But we have a whole lot of people, the majority of people today, who want to live a free, laissez-faire lifestyle and somehow reach the conclusion, the final destination of a traditional family one does not lead to the other. So how, like logically, how does that work out? It's really simple when you think about it.
Well, here's the thing with that subjective reality. That this subjective and objective, it's totally seen. We're totally looking at it with this debate through the eyes of men. The one of the failures of the manosphere at large, doesn't matter the race, color, whatever, for the longest time was just completely looking at it through the eyes of the men. Okay, men, this is your subjective or objective reality. This is how you must proceed. Whereas you had a small group of individuals like myself who've been saying this for years. But what about the women? Women are not confined.
And this is a common debate / conversation tactic in a lot of these spaces. Whenever you're having a serious, calm, collective conversation and you're making valid points and you're saying, you know what, maybe the problem is this, maybe you should try that, maybe men should work on this. What they will always do is throw the woman monkey wrench in there. What about the? It's like when all else fails, blame the woman. That's what they do. I'm trying this. We're having a conversation. The person's making valid points. I really don't have a rebuttal for it. The women. You're going to hear that a lot. The moment you get backed into a corner and you can't really refute what's being said. Oh, the women.
To male standards in order to move, and guys we kind of figured it out that okay, all that religious stuff that we came up learning from our fathers, grandfathers, uncles, it does not apply in this modern world. It does not apply. When social media came to the picture, social media became the new religion. TikTok, Instagram, women's need for attention became their new religion. God, they could give a excuse my language, they can give an F about God at this point.
And
exactly, and they be thinking they made a point. Those are not the women you're supposed to choose. I know it sounds simple. It is.
Okay, then take it back to the debate. At that point, SKC,
they're getting the people that you're talking about. Let's say like the you said the Instagram people, the social media women, and the thoughts and blah 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 blah. Okay,
women, not men.
Okay, those women. Who are following them? Who's giving them? Who's giving them money? Who's saying? Who's saying $40?
Now, those women, it doesn't matter.
How do they eat?
Those women are being followed, as I stated in your chat, by seal clapping women who support them, and also a large swath of thirsty simps.
Oh, men. That's what it sounded like you just said there, brother. Listen. I appreciate that. Man, see how he had to go all the way around. Okay, let's keep going.
It must not be a just a large. It must be a significant number for them to be able to support themselves.
Yes, and this
so then it seems like you have a large swath of men who are praying at the church of the 304.
Yeah,
there we go. And fellas, this is why I always say it is not hard for you to find a good woman. Let me explain that and break that down. Let me tell you why I say that, right? Because just like there's a whole lot of non-traditional women, there's a whole lot of non-traditional men. So in your mind, you're saying there's this small amount of traditional women and all these men that want them. However, truly traditional women, truly traditional women seek out, are attracted to, and attract traditional men. And just like there's a small amount of traditional women, there's a small amount of traditional men. So you're not competing with a whole, like, here's the part y'all don't understand. If you truly are a traditional person, you are not competing with nearly as many people as you think. You're not, because most people are not traditional. Traditional people actually have more options because they are, like, how do I put this? How do I put it? So the non-traditional pool is huge. It is a whole bunch of people in there, and it's first come, first serve. And they don't really clean the pool. That's that. But in the traditional pool, there's requirements, there's barriers to entry, there's an entry fee, there's a dress code. It doesn't seem as cool, it don't seem as fun. So there's a lot less people in that pool. A lot less people. So you come across, it's a lot easier to date in when you're traditional. You got a lot more options and a lot less distractions. Very simple. Hold on, let me see some. Control C, go here. There we go. There's the link to the actual video that I'm looking at. All right, let's continue because I can't be.
And see, here's the thing.
The Church of the 304 can't exist without its adherents, right?
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing. Let's take this back to Andrew and CGA and kind of, where they're similar, but they're arguing around each other in circles because they're on opposite sides. They kind of have a solution for the problem you're describing, but they're on opposite sides of it and they're unwilling to come together. Because CGA solution, as applying CGA solution, isn't easy as you describe, as ChatGPT described for you. Applying
Greatness is never easy.
Okay, yeah. It takes greatness to follow his steps, the 11 steps of the free agent lifestyle. It isn't 23 like SYSPM. He's got an 11-step process to follow free. And it's very difficult.
I don't know. Not involving your protecting self from risk does not seem like a great path or quote unquote hero's journey, as you stated before. In fact, it seems the complete opposite. The hero in the hero's journey faces the most significant risk due to not being or falling into cowardice, and goes on and takes on.
Oh, let me pause real quick. What do you mean? When you say what's the percentage, do you mean like what's the percentage of traditional men and women? Like what's the percentage of traditional single childless women between the ages of, let's say, 25 and 40? Is that what you mean? So I can't give you a percentage until I got like trying to figure out what you mean by. Because if that's what you mean, I can give you a percentage on that. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that's what you mean. Like, what percentage of? Matter of fact, I'm gonna even take it a step further. Of all the Black women who are unmarried in Black America today, between the ages of 25 and 40, of all of them, single childless, what percentage of them are attractive and traditional? I would say out of that 100%, about 35%. About 35%. And then on the flip side, same thing, but with the men. About 28%. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you got plenty of options, right? All right, now let's get back to this video.
A significant risk that most do not want to ever think about, which qualifies him to be a hero.
But here's the hypocritical side of that from you, SKC. You are one of the SYSBM Knights, and that is part of the basic premise of SYSBM to take risk to avoid risk mitigation from the community. I don't, not bringing the community up, y'all, but just referencing it to SYSBM. The brothers of SYSBM saw fit that, okay, we must take some kind of risk aversion to prevent being sucked up into what the community has become.
Maybe that's where we see things differently. I don't see it as any sort of risk aversion. I see it as going into the unknown and getting out of the I would say what others say is the comfort zone. Typically, when you have a quote unquote hero's journey, you're talking about a person that takes the path of great resistance. And all of the people who take on that various mantra of the whole SYSBM, since you want to throw that into the conversation, is leading towards things that are not being followed by the majority at all. It is the lean road.
And this is where I saw my odds with SYSBM, because when I say I'm a friend of the movement, shout out to Mad Bus Driver, big supporter, you and all the fellas.
Fast forward, but it's like
I took that journey before social media, which is why my journey began.
So what are we saying?
Is that I just was not a fit for it, and maybe because I'm a tether.
Hold on, I need to grab my charger very quickly. I'll be right back. Let me grab my charger. All right, I'm back. Okay, I see the clarifying question. Single, childless women that are marriage-minded in America. All right. So, of all the single, childless women in America, of all women in America, how many of them are single, childless, and marriage-minded? I'm gonna give it my honest opinion. Okay. I'd say between 40 and 47%, I'd say. All right. Let's keep going.
That might be part of the reason as well. But I see the journey. Let me take this back to CGA. I see the similarities. I have no beef with what the brothers in SYSBM doing. But I watched CGA's rise thanks to Mrs. MBD put me on the CGA. And I watched his rise. She put me on to him because his journey was similar to mine. And if I know you're not familiar with his villain arc, but he did the hard thing. His solutions are derived from doing the hard thing, going monk mode, leaving the thirsty thoughts alone, taking the L's, living in his truck after being homeless and getting fleeced by his ex-wife. I know you're going to say, oh, yeah, let's go back. Bad choices in selecting her, but you can't go back and Monday morning quarterback that. The decision was made. He married her. He has 2 beautiful grown kids from her. It happened. What had to happen was 11 years of going through hell based on a decision he made in his youth. So that journey, you cannot sit up here and say, oh, that journey was easy.
No, I'm not saying that it was. I'm saying
Yes.
that I'm saying that it was self-inflicted.
Okay, so may it be. That is the whole premise of why all these brothers in the black or white manosphere, the clanosphere, all came together, because they all made a choice that basically shot themselves in the foot. And which I've argued many times with you is that, and we've saluted you and given you your flowers, you didn't make that choice.
No,
You
and
hit a home run out the gate.
And my
Just
my
part
point
on
of
it
any
right
of that, because I don't really like to talk about myself on family and all that other stuff. I don't grandstand in front of other people. I don't even hold that what I did was something great. I always state, no, I was a plug and play quarterback. I just followed the tradition of what was given and took advice from people that had done the same thing that I was trying to achieve to do. That's it. I deserve no great fanfare, anything like that. What I did was absolutely normal. So, but what I find interesting is when people try to make it seem as though what normal people typically do all over the globe is some sort of minority type of thing, when we can look at statistics and data and see that the majority of children in the United States are in 2-parent households, and that is 2-parent from their original parents. The majority are.
Okay.
So what I did was not some abnormal thing.
So, like I said, you take 2 gentlemen who come from great parents, and all you do is you flip the decisions. One makes a good decision, one makes a bad decision. One goes on the hero's arc from jump, one's villain arc starts, and then years later, his hero journey must begin. And then based on the knowledge he learned from that villain arc, he's able to show other men. That's what we're looking at CGA. Unfortunately, you have millions of men who are in the villain arc in which CGA, is going through. And unfortunately, guys like Andrew Wilson will tell them to jump right back into the frying pan. We'll be like, hey, religion could have saved you. It should have saved you. Hey, maybe if you try and do it all over again with a woman, with 3 baby daddies and 3 kids, go for it. Try it again. Versus CGA was saying, no, fuck all that shit. Remove yourself from, the degeneracy of which, that little weird ass word, remove yourself from the degeneracy. Freaking.
I mean, that's an interesting concept. I think that it's a bit of a straw man, because I've never heard Wilson or anyone else say the idea about, oh, you need to, marry some baby mama or such.
I'm going off of his actions. I look at CGA's actions and I look at Andrew Wilson's actions.
So are we gonna bring up actions then?
Yeah.
Are we gonna bring up words? Because I mean, for all intents and purposes, let's say if you have a family and you had a father who, I don't know, he made some mistakes and he gives advice to his son and tries to lead his son in a way to avoid those issues. Is that a bad thing to do? Or should the son say, no, I want to dig into your past, father, and follow that?
I mean, you're basically describing what CGA is doing now. Like, I'm with you. That's kind of what I did for my son. I mean,
all right. So regardless,
hold on, real quick.
Regardless of CGA's past,
no. Let's stay there. Let's stay right there. Here's what you're describing as, and gentlemen with situations like yours, is that your parents, your grandfathers already went through that villain arc, that hero's journey, to where you didn't have to. Now CGA's son He doesn't have to because CGA went through it. Just different stages of the villain arc, bro.
Well, no, my parents didn't, or grandfathers, they didn't go through any villain arc. They just did normal thing and got married, and that was it.
And they went
There's
through no strife, no strife, no struggle.
No, there were no divorces or anything of that nature. So, and I'm not trying to bring that up as some sort of comparison and all of that, because to me, I think
that's the norm. That's the norm, though.
Right, and I think that
that's the part I wanted right there. That exchange right there. Did you hear that? One brother says, you know what? The villain arc. Well, basically, and this is why you have to be careful about who you are listening to, because you need to know what their philosophy is before you take any advice from them. Because there are a large growing number of men who feel as though you have to have these problems. Whether it's you or your father or your grandfather, they believe that woman problems are a part of the process. They do not believe in having a happy, successful situation without first going through woman problems. And so if you say, hey, no, we don't do that over here, they don't think it's normal to avoid avoidable problems. That's why I played that part. There's a growing number of men, they do not believe that it is possible to avoid women problems. That's why he said, you're just on a different part of the journey. It's either you going through the woman problems, or your dad went through them and he's trying to teach you, or your great-grandfather went through it. He could not believe, we all just avoided that completely. And that's normal. Some of you are listening to people who believe that woman problems are natural. They're normal. Functional relationships are alien to a lot of secular people. They believe that problems come baked in. Specific women problems. They believe they don't think that, they think it's a problem. That's what's crazy. They think you have to have women problems. You have to learn the hard way. You have to pick the wrong woman.
I think that trying to dig into people's past and trying to make that a part of what they're saying is ridiculous, because a lot of people go through various issues and then they issue out rhetoric or ideas based upon wanting others not to, or he could ask, I don't know, married men who have been successfully married as to what he should and shouldn't do, and do it, and he doesn't have to pay them in order to do it.
Like Andrew Wilson?
Let me go back.
Like who are we referring
back a little bit?
Because it goes into the later parts of this conversation. So is it 50% plus one or not?
It doesn't even matter, bro. Wherever the number's at, we're talking in the tens of millions of men. And when you have a significant amount of young men who are basically lost boys at that point, they're going to look from guidance from somewhere.
Well, you have 160 men, 160 million plus men in the country.
Okay, but here's the thing, SKC. How many million men do you need to start a revolt? And that's fine. Hold on, real quick. If you got millions of men out there that are lost, okay, they're going to look somewhere. And here's what I put on. You talk about solutions. Whose solution is going to work better for them in today? Your own GPT told you, for the right now, it is freaking CGA's solution will work for those men right now. Andrew Will's solution, it is hope and pray.
It's actually not hope and pray. And I'll show you the difference. Okay. So let's say, because a lot of times CJ would use stuff like in real world, such and such and such and such and blah, 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 right? The immediacy right now. Okay, so let me get this right. There's a young man, I don't know, he's in his early 20s or something like that. And he's thinking about getting married and blah, 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 blah. Either he has the option of looking at CGA's book, 52 Things That You Should Do Before You Get Married, or he could ask, I don't know, married men who have been successfully married as to what he should and shouldn't do, and do it, and he doesn't have to pay them in order to do it.
Like Andrew Wilson? Like who are we referring to here? I mean, you have a capitalism? Is it a capitalism issue? I mean, should CGA get paid, or should he just give this away for free?
You pointed
to paid?
Okay, you pointed to one person, and I just stated that person could look to millions of men in the country who are successfully married and have been married for quite some time and get that advice for free.
Okay, let me give you the response, the rhetorical response to that, SKC. Those same boys could look at the millions of men who've been fleeced in family court and get advice from them.
And this is why I played this part, to make this point right here. Because what I realized that a lot of guys are doing, and a lot of you got to be real with yourself about what you're doing. A lot of you are intentionally going to the wrong source for bad information in order to self-sabotage. I'm going to say that again. You might not admit that you're doing this, but when you really think about what you're doing, that's what you're doing. You are going to the wrong source intentionally to get the wrong advice, to self-sabotage. What do I mean by that? All this talk about what's wrong with the modern woman and this, they don't want to be married and this and the third. The only reason why you're talking about that and you care about that is because you want a happy, healthy relationship with the woman that could possibly lead to marriage. You want to be married. You want a family. Right? But there are plenty of people, married people, who make quality content about how to have and maintain happy, healthy, long-term marriages. You do not consume that content. You do not seek advice from these people. Instead, you actively seek out information from people who are opposed to marriage. And oftentimes you pay for that information. Why? Because you are intentionally going to the wrong source for the wrong information so that you can self-sabotage yourself. And why are you doing that? Because deep down, you're afraid. What if I can't find the right woman? Or what if she don't want me? Or what if it don't work out? Or this, that, all these different kind of things. And so a lot of you are seeking out the wrong information on purpose. I mean, let's just be real. Why would you go to CGA for marriage advice? Why would you go to him for information on how to vet a wife, how to find a wife, how to get a wife? Why? He does not have that information. Quite frankly, he don't even believe that you should get married. And so for you to go to him for that kind of advice, you're going to the wrong place on purpose. And you need to ask yourself, why am I doing that? He just said, hey, if you want this outcome, find somebody that has this outcome. His response was, let's find somebody that got the wrong result and get advice from them. Why would you do that?
Okay, so then, oh, right. And then that's what I'm saying is, why would a person who is in a relationship that wants this relationship to be successful, but they want to be able to I guess, vet correctly, why would they sit up and talk to the person that's going to say, don't do it at all, versus the person who is doing it successfully?
And here's the flaw. Here's the flaw in your argument, SKC.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the flaw. You're not familiar with CGA's philosophy. And that's the problem. You said, and this is a problem. I didn't even say anything to Free Zone about the title. It's not risk aversion versus risk mitigation. It's risk mitigation my way versus risk mitigation your way. That's where the difference between Andrew Wilson and
No. Because if your version of risk mitigation is to not do the thing at all, then that's risk aversion.
CGA is. Here's my solution versus here's your solution. Put up receipts. That's what we're talking about here. Now, and just as I described, the men who are in successful marriages versus the men who've been fleeced in family court. They're both in the tens of millions. Why not look at both sides?
Why not look? Why not look at both sides? You want a particular outcome. Why not go to the guys who failed? And come on, man.
Because one has greater success than the other. That's why.
Very simple.
Okay, so here's the variable.
It's kind of like saying, you just presented to me of saying, to a great degree, which I agree with. Making it to the NFL is a feat in itself. It's a great feat. But I don't know, if I want to build a successful franchise, should I look at the Cleveland Browns, or should I look at the Steelers or the Patriots?
Okay, and there's your 30,000.
They're both in the NFL. One group has tons of championships, and one has never seen a championship.
All right, there you go. I'll rock with your 30,000-foot view. But then here's the issue. You make it to the NFL, and you get hit, and you end up like Jaden Daniels the other day. Your arm turned backwards. And that right there is women's emotions. And that
see what I said at the beginning? When all else fails, blame the woman. When you can't refute a point, when you're backed into a corner, instead of just concede, throw that it's a woman's fault, Hail Mary. Because one person just said, hey, why don't we ask the people that failed in marriage for marriage advice, as opposed to the people who are successfully married? That doesn't make logical sense. And then he responded with, women's emotions. When all else fails, blame the woman.
That's what Andrew Wilson avoided completely in the debate, and what you're avoiding, what I ask you about, I don't know how many times in your chat, what about women's emotions? One day she wakes up, I'm not happy. I don't know. I mean, that didn't even come from CJ. That came from Kevin Samuels, our old homie, RIP, used to be down here in the trenches with us on panels. He came up with that. I'm not happy. How do you account for that, bro? One day they just wake up, I'm not happy.
Okay, so then why do you have all of these other men that have long successful marriages and so forth who never had that problem?
How do you know they don't have that problem?
They've never complained about it. They're not out here talking about, you know what? One day my wife woke up and she said, I'm not happy, and then we got divorced. Then they don't have stories like that. They have stories of, you know what? I got married, 20, 30 years ago, and no marriage is perfect. We've had our kids. We transferring this or that. We're doing it.
Okay.
But we don't hear them saying stories about, she woke up one day and all of her ideas just changed.
It's weird you say that, because I hang out on Reddit, and Reddit is super lefty. And it's funny that the lefties are over there. There's so many different Reddits of I won't even say millions, of thousands of Reddits where guys are over there saying that. It's just me. I'm not happy. Our dead bedrooms wouldn't be one of the most popular Reddits, if that was the case, SKC. But here's the thing.
It's interesting.
We don't hold on real quick. We don't. I
I
We
want you
don't
to
know how many
continue.
men are in the longhouse, SKC.
Right.
How many of those men are in the longhouse?
I
Are you
want you-
familiar with that is?
I
Are you
want you.
familiar with that is, SKC, the longhouse?
Please don't do the CGA thing, man.
No, are you familiar with the longhouse?
I want you to continue. All I'm asking is just this one thing. When you stated Reddit, everybody in the chat is Reddit. Do you think that the people in Reddit are religious or non-religious? Just put that in the chat for me, people. Is it left-leaning or right-leaning?
Okay.
Continue, Trey.
Now we go over to X, which is more right-leaning. The same damn thing. You know that horseshoe of liberalism and conservatism? You know how it kind of comes together? It kind of comes together, bro, when it comes to men in the longhouse. But I don't, I don't know. Somebody in the chat explain to SKC what the longhouse is.
All right, and this is one of the last points I wanted to make, because I think a lot of people don't understand this and a lot of people confuse this. But conservative or Republican or right wing is not the same as Christian. Republican or right wing or conservative is not the same as traditional Christian values. Those are not the same thing. One is a religious belief. The other is a political ideology. Those are two completely different things. Now, you can be a conservative and also be a traditional Christian. You can be. But just because you are a conservative, that does not make you a Christian. There's all kinds of conservatives with all kinds of belief systems, value systems, and ways of life that are not congruent with a Christian belief or lifestyle. And people mix this up way too much. But conservative or Republican or right wing, whatever you want to call it, is not the same as having a traditional Christian belief system. Those are two completely different things. Once again, one is a religious belief, the other is a political ideology. Those are two completely different things. So making the point that conservative men are having problems in their marriage, I bet they are. But what does that have to do with traditional Christian marriage? Nothing. Not a thing.
Because you kind of described it with all these men that, man, I done been married forever. I don't have them problems, nothing like that. Yeah, man, 20, 30 years. Okay, you were married before social media came along. Your wife didn't have an Instagram account. Your wife
and this is another thing I don't understand. Listen, I understand the influence of social media, but I don't understand why so many guys act like, oh man, how you gonna get a woman now with Instagram out here? I don't know. I don't get that either.
didn't have 20 niggas in her inbox talking about food, fly you out, this, that, and the other. I can do better. A bunch of single girlfriends telling you this, that, and the other. Okay. If that's your reality, cool. But for the majority of young men today, this what I describe is their reality. What I describe as their reality, SKC.
Okay, so let me get this right. A bunch of married men and women typically hang out with single people.
Men.
No, I'm saying both. You're telling me that the majority of married people hang out and have single friends.
I don't know what they do, bro. I'm not in their house.
But you just presented stating that you have these married women that they're listening to their single girlfriends in their ear and so forth. I'm just asking, do you believe that the majority of married people hang out with single people?
I don't believe anything, bro.
No, they don't. Like, listen, people who are in serious committed relationships tend to hang out with other couples with a similar relationship status. That's just what they do. Just like single people tend to single people tend to hang out with other single people. Right? You go to the, my bad, got the hiccups all of a sudden. But if you were to go to the club this weekend, first, it's not that complicated. When it comes to social engagement, people naturally siphon themselves off by income level, age, relationship status, attraction to, what gender they're attracted to, and so forth and so on. So people that have a certain level of income and education are going to be in certain places. And then the single ones, for the most part, are going to be over here doing this thing over here. And the ones that are in the committed relationships are going to be, for the most part, over here doing this thing. Like, for example, every fall, you see a whole lot of couples, particularly couples with kids, but sometimes just couples, at the pumpkin patch. I go to the pumpkin patch almost every single year, right? And I'm gonna be real with you. I don't see I don't see a bunch of single people hanging out at the pumpkin patch. I don't. It's mostly families and couples. Just like if I were to go to a club in DC this weekend, most of the people in this club are going to be single. For the most part. There may be some exceptions, like it's somebody's birthday, so they out because it's somebody's birthday. Or, it's the holiday season, and so their girl is in town for, they don't see their girl that often. But for the most part, it's going to be, you're not going to see a whole bunch of, think about it, next time you go to the club, you're not going to see a whole bunch of wedding rings in the club. You're not. So it's like, I don't know why we've been having this conversation. Like, come on, man.
I believe what I see in front of my face. But here's the thing.
What do you see in front of your face?
I look at the trends, bro.
What do you see in your face?
The trends are this.
Do you see married people hanging around a bunch of single people?
The trends are this.
What? No, you do not. He just said, I believe what I see in my face. He asked him, well, do you see this in your face? The answer is no, which is why he is not answering the question.
What do you see, chat?
I see the trends are strong, boss babe, women, your husband doesn't own your body. Let's get up to preach to men, tell men.
See? Once again, when all else fails, blame the women. He cannot answer the question. He doesn't want to concede the point. Let's bring up what's wrong with these women. And listen, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. Let me just wrap this up by saying this. Once again, there is a clear difference between secular marriage and religious-based marriage. While it is possible to get the same results from a secular marriage that you would from a religious-based marriage, it is far less likely. And the reason for that, once again, is because in the secular marriage, what marriage means to this person probably doesn't mean the same thing to the other person. And so the two of you are not even making the same commitment. And that's typically why it does not work. That makes sense? All right.
Thank you.